What is up, everyone? We are back. Man, we got a really cool video for you today. We are going to teach you how to install a kill switch on your side-by-side machine. So hang out, stick around. I think you're really going to like this one. All right, folks, well, here are just a couple of tools you're gonna need in order for you to make this job happen. So first and foremost, obviously, you're gonna need your switch. We're going with a single pole switch right here. It's just a simple on and off. Now here are a couple examples of some other switches you can use. So think outside of the box. If you have something laying around, you could absolutely use this. Here's one of our traditional toggle switches. So any switch will work as long as you know how that switch works. Basically, you know how it turns on and it turns off and the signals that it's sending to those wires. We have a multimeter to double check our wires. Once we get them all installed, we're going to go ahead and make sure that those wires are good to go. Then we have some heat shrink here for when we do some soldering. We're definitely going to be soldering all of these connections because you want this stuff to be right. You want it to work when it's supposed to work. We also obviously have some wire here. So I've got myself some 14 gauge wire, but there's all different types of wires you can use for this. I just like to stick with 14 gauge. You can go a little bit smaller if you need to. 16 would also work well. Obviously, we have our solder iron right here. We have some wire strippers and then just some basic all-around tool here. If I need more tools, obviously got tons more in there, but that's what we're gonna need in order to make this job work. So I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. You're probably thinking to yourself, why do I need a kill switch? Well, you know, some of you may not. However, it is pretty cool to have it. And it gives you a little bit of peace of mind for us. For example, we go out camping all the time. We're always looking for new riding parks. So we're having to leave our side-by-side out around the cabin, around our camper where we're camping. And it just, sometimes it's gonna be a little bit nerve-wracking. There's a lot of people around and you never know, people do steal things. So having the kill switch on there does bring me a little bit of peace of mind. Here's the machine we're going to be putting this kill switch on. This is a 17900 Sport, and there's just tons of places you could put it. My advice to you is to find somewhere that you will remember where that switch is, and it's easy for you to get to, especially if you're running a harness system like this. The last thing you want to do is you want to get in, buckle yourselves all in, and then you forget that you actually have to turn on your kill switch in order for you to start this razor. My advice to you is to put it somewhere close where you can reach it when you're sitting in the seat. Now on to our schematic to show you how and where we're gonna put this kill switch. So we have our ignition key, which is basically your key that you're gonna turn that engine over with. Your PCM, which is your brain that tells your fuel relay to go ahead and activate and initiate the pump to send fuel to the engine. So that's basically how a circuit starts. We're gonna break this circuit right here between the fuel relay and the PCM, because even if you don't have the keys and you try to jump start this thing, like popping the clutch as you might have heard in the past, you still won't be able to start the engine because there's not gonna be any fuel going to the engine. So that's exactly where we're gonna want to break this circuit at. I'm gonna go ahead and now demonstrate to you basically what's happening that you saw in that schematic. We're gonna turn our key, our ignition key, and you're gonna hear that pump prime the engine. And the only reason why that pump's gonna prime the engine is because the relay is an active circuit within that diagram. So you hear that? The only reason why that pump's working is because that circuit is not broken. It's a good circuit. And there you have it. All right, well, here's the basic system and components we're gonna use in order to install the switch. So basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna have your single pole switch, and you're gonna have your two wires coming out from them. All right, so before you go ahead and start cutting into your relay, and we're gonna get into that in a second, You want to install the switch onto your machine, run your wires all the way back to your fuse relay box, and then we want to test them to make sure that there's no breaks in the lines, because once we install this, it should be a plug and play situation. So the way you're going to do that is you're going to do an ohms check on your circuit here. So basically what we do is we got this multimeter and we're going to hook it up to the ohms check, which is going to be that. Okay, you're going to want to make sure your wires are in the right place. And this is just a little cheapy dude that I bought from like AutoZone just forever ago, and it still works really good. So now I want to make sure that this circuit is going to work. So let's go ahead and test it now. Oh, we're getting nothing. That must mean that the switch is off. So let's turn the switch on. There we go. So now we know we have a circuit, we know our wires are good, our switch is working, and we can proceed on to the next step. All right, well, I'm not gonna show you where I installed my switch, so I'm not gonna go through the whole installation process and running the wires. I know that all of you can do that on your own. Not only that, but there's actually been a few times that I've ran into some folks who've been watching our videos, and so they've checked out the razor and things of that nature. I don't want anybody to know where my switch is. Now you're probably saying to yourself, okay, well, it's not that big of a machine. We're gonna be able to find it, whatever the case may be. Well, that might be the case. However, you wanna at least give the individuals who's trying to take your machine a run for their money and delay them the time. If it's taking them too long to figure out how to get that thing started, then it might just save your machine one day. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this fuse box and see where that fuel relay is, so that way we can start tearing into that and installing the switch. If you're working on a razor like we do here on Razor Dreams, obviously your fuse box is going to be usually under one of the seats. And like I said, that's usually, it could change from machine to machine and model make year and things of that nature. So how do we know specifically where this fuel relay is? Well, if you come here and you look on our fuse box, you'll actually see it right there. You see it, it says right there, it says fuel pump relay. So if we pull this thing off and we kind of put these two side by side, you'll see that we have a few different relays. 1, 2, 3 is in this cluster right here. So the fuel pump relay is actually right here on this one. So how do we know whether that's the right one? Well, let's go ahead, pull that relay out and try and start this machine. All right, so we didn't get any fuel pump going off. You hear that? There's no fuel going to the engine. That's exactly what's gonna happen when we have our kill switch on. It's gonna it's going to cut the circuit from that brain to the relay, and that's exactly where we want it to be. Because look at me now, I got all of my accessories on, we have all of our lights and things of that nature. I can put some music on and not have to worry about it, all with having that kill switch off. Okay, so in order for us to double check to make sure we're going to splice in the correct circuit for this relay, basically what we're gonna do here is test this relay to make sure, one, that it's working. We obviously do, because we just pulled it out of a razor that just fired up when it was a working system, and it didn't fire when we had it out. But you're gonna wanna do is go ahead and get yourself a 9-volt battery, so that way we can test this. I've already looked up the specific relay, so we know that the two open contacts are gonna be 85 and 86, with 86 being the positive terminal and 85 being the negative terminal. So we have the blue wire here to simulate that we have a negative ground connection, and then we have the yellow here to simulate a positive. And what we're really going to look for here is a click, and this relay should click when we connect these circuits together. All right, so we know exactly where we're at. So we know where our ground input signal is, and we know where our positive input signal is. And this is the positive is coming from the brain. That's where that circuit's coming into. And with this being grounded, it's gonna boom, it's gonna activate this coil, and it's gonna turn these two to 12 volts. What's gonna send a message down to the fuel pump to go ahead and activate it and send fuel to the engine. Okay, so here we are back at the relay fuse box. So we're gonna go ahead and trace wire 86, because that's the wire we're looking for. And here's the fuel relay. So if I go back here on the back of the wire harness, I will trace this back to this wire right here. And this wire actually ends up being the wire we want to disrupt. This is the one we want to break. All right, so hey, don't mind that bottle cap. That's probably just one from my homeboy back over there at Goldsboro, Joey McGarity. So hey buddy, I'm still thinking about you. I left that in there just for you. And Alexis too, I guess. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and start rewiring this and see if we can break the circuit. Well, all right, everybody, we are totally done splicing our wire system for the relay. So let's go ahead and see if this thing works. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and switch that kill switch in the off position to see if this thing will start. I know I told you all earlier that I wasn't gonna show you where I installed my switch, but I don't think it'd be justice if I just kind of cut the video in and out with the switch on and off. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that live on the video. So let's just go ahead and see how this works out. So everything's in working order, so this razor should start right now. There's the fuel pump. So we got the switch in the on position, obviously. So we have a circuit right now, which is good. All right, everything's great, everything's working. So let's just go ahead and show you where I got my switch. I actually put it in the glove box, so it's right up top there. So now that we have this switch on, it basically should be breaking the situation, breaking the circuit. I know that technically on would be that we have a good circuit, but for us, what we're gonna view as on is if the switch is actually doing its job. So there should be no fuel, there should be no engine startup and things of that nature. So let's see. Yep, you can already tell we got no fuel. And it's gonna die. We broke the engine starting circuit, which is pretty good. It's exactly what we wanted to have. So great. All right, folks, well, there you have it. We figured it out. We broke the razor, which is what we actually really wanted to do. So now that if somebody tries to pop that clutch, right, we know that's not the case, but if somebody tries to steal my razor that doesn't have the keys, they won't be able to do it when my kill switch is on because there'll be no fuel going to that engine. So hey, thanks a lot for tuning in. I really appreciate all you hanging out with us. Please do me a favor and subscribe. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. And I guess we'll check you next time.